Okay, now we're going to start with Chapter 4. Hopefully you've downloaded Chapter 4 from Cybex.com, so we're all starting in the same place. Essentially, Chapter 4 covers the tools. So we're going to talk about the details of the modify tools, and we're going to use the model to walk us through those tools, but the real emphasis here is getting familiar with the tools and the different options within each tool in the modify command, because you'll use them constantly as you work in Revit. Chapter 4, working with Autodesk Revit tools. You can only get so far when allowing a computer application to place architectural components into a model. At some point, the application needs to be flexible enough to enable users to employ their own set of drafting and modifying tools, thus providing architects and designers with the freedom to create their own architecture and construction procedures. The Autodesk Revit architecture program does provide the basic modify and edit commands, which are quite common in other drafting applications such as AutoCAD software and MicroStation, but Revit does this with a little bit more flair and some differences in procedures as compared to a 2D drafting application. So in this chapter we're going to cover basic editing commands, the array command, mirror command, align tool, split elements command, the trim command, the offset command, copy paste, and creating plans. Sound like a plan? No pun intended. The basic edit commands. In this chapter you'll learn how to use the geometry you've already placed in the model to build an actual working plan. As you manipulate the plan, all of the other views you made in Chapter 3, creating views, will reflect those changes. You'll start with the edit commands. Alright, so the first command that we're going to get into is the move command. And you've used all these commands to some degree already this semester, so don't, some of this should be review. Don't get frustrated if you're like, oh yeah, I already know how to use the command. There's nuances within each command that we haven't gone over yet. Alright, so I am moving on to the move command. The move command is generally used to create a copy of an item while deleting the original item. That's a fancy way of saying moving the item. I don't know why they tell you it makes a new copy, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Begin by finding the model you're using to follow along. If you haven't completed the previous chapter procedures, open the file called ner-4.rvt at the book's website at www.cybec.com/go/revit 2017 NER. We've all done this multiple times, so I've already downloaded the file, but you should be familiar with it. And in general, when we start a new file, the first thing we're going to do is download the file from the chapter, so we know we're all starting at the same spot. Item 1, go to level 1 under the floor plan category in the project browser. This should also be very familiar to you at this point. If you're not familiar with using the project browser to navigate at this point, you need to become familiar very quickly. Do not do this. Do not, in your 3D view, go, oh, top. Is that the same thing as going to level 1? No, it's entirely different. So there are some things that we're going to do in the 3D view, and it makes sense to work in the 3D view, but typically you want to constrain how you're working in your model, and you do that by navigating the various views in the project browser. So we're going to go to level 1, as the book indicates. Item 2, zoom in on the west wing. We're going to zoom in over here, and specifically we're going to zoom in down here. Item 3, select the south wall of the bump out at the south side of the wing. Okay. And that's shown in figure 4.1. Item 4, on the Modify Walls tab is the Move button. So we have a context tab, right? We know that because this is turned green. It says Modify Walls. And you'll notice that we have some tools. And this is the panel really that we're going to spend most of our time in tonight, right here, Modify. And this thing that looks like 4 arrows is the Move icon. Pretty self-explanatory, very visual. Or you can type MV. Item 5, now that the Move command is running, you'll see some choices on the option bar. This is the option bar. In general, you should get into a habit of looking at the option bar before you use the tool. It's going to basically expand the capabilities of that tool. Constrain. If you select constrain, you can now only move at 0, 90, 180, or 270. For those AutoCAD users out there, this would be the same as orthogonal. If you select disjoin, then when you move the wall, any walls that are joined to it won't be affected by the move. The wall will lose its joints. If you don't select disjoin and you move this wall, the walls that are connected to it will move with it. So that depends on how you want to interact with the wall. Item 6. To start moving the item, you must first pick a base point for the command. Pick a point somewhere towards the middle of the wall. All right. When they say base point, this is going to be the point that you're going to move from. So think of this as the beginning of the line, essentially. We're just going to click here. After you pick this point, move your cursor straight up. You see a blue dimension. At this point, you have two choices. You can eyeball the increment, or you can type in the increments you want. I don't think you should eyeball or click to drag. At this point, make sure you're dragging in the right direction, and then type in your dimension. It's the most accurate way to do it. So they ask us to type in the value, 2 feet 6 inches. And if we hit return, the wall will have moved exactly 2 feet 6 inches. Why did the adjacent walls move with it?
Because they're joined.
Because we didn't tell it to disjoin, right, in the options bar. All right, very good. That's it. That's the totality of the move command. Earth-shattering, isn't it? I promise the other commands we'll get further into. They'll have more options. So the next command, which is kind of like move, works much the same way as the copy command. When you need to make a duplicate of an item, copy is your go-to player. The copy command works like the move command, except that it leaves the initial item intact. You can now also create multiple copies if necessary. To start using the copy command, follow these steps. 1. Make sure you're still in floor plan level 1, which we are. 2. Zoom and pan so you focus on the east wing. Okay, so this was the west wing. This is the east wing. And we're going to go right about here. And that's shown in figure 4.4. Item 3. Select the right corridor wall, see figure 4.4. Click the copy command on the modify walls tab. So we're going to select this. And then we're going to come over here. And this is the copy command. You'll notice that the shortcut to copy command is CO. Some of these modify commands you'll be using a lot. If you want to increase your speed in Revit, I suggest you start to embrace the shortcut commands. We're going to click on the copy command. Now we're also going to define a base point here, and then we're going to move. But when we do that, the original item is going to stay right where it's at, and we're going to get a new item. So let's run through those steps. On the options bar, click the constraint. What is that going to allow us to do? Only move in 0, 90, 180, or 270. Item 6. Zoom in on the wall close to the midpoint of the selected wall and the intersection of the horizontal wall that divides the portion of the building. See figure 4.4. If you hover your cursor at the center of the wall, not near the actual finished face, but at the core of the wall, you'll see a blue dot center line indicate that you found the center line of the wall. Alright, so if we hover over this, you see that blue line that showed up? I'm in the center line of that wall. Also, if you move your cursor to the right a little, you can position it so it picks up the horizontal wall's center line. After you pick the horizontal wall center line, the center line for the vertical wall will disappear. See that? I went from vertical to horizontal. Right. Move right until you pick up the midpoint of the horizontal wall. When you do, pick that point. If the midpoint doesn't appear, type 22 feet 3 inches. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this wall here, and I'm going to move until I hit the midpoint. And I'm going to know I hit the midpoint because it's going to turn into a triangle. And now we have a wall here, and we have a wall that we copied. Item 9. Mirror the two walls, the south side of the corridor shown in figure 4.5 Now we should know how to do this, right? We're going to select this wall. We're going to come up here, mirror pick axis. We're going to pick that reference plane that we set up in, I believe, chapter 1. And now I have the wall on the south side of the corridor. I did that all with the modified tools, right? I didn't draw a new tool. I didn't invoke the wall command. All I've done is copy and mirror and move around the original wall. All right. Everybody with me? Good. Right, so let's explore the rotate command. The rotate command enables you to change the polar orientation of an item or set of items. This command may take a little bit of practice to understand. The good thing, however, is that when you have experience with the rotate command, you'll be better at other commands that share a similar process. To use the rotate command, follow these steps. Item 1, open the level 1 floor plan, which we have done. Item 2, zoom in on the radial portion of the west wing. So we'll navigate over there and zoom in on the radial portion of the west wing. Item 3, you're going to add a new reference plane and rotate it by 45 degrees. To do this, click the reference plane in the work plane panel in the architecture tab. So I'm going to navigate up to the architecture tab, work plane panel, reference plane tool. Or I could type in RP. All right. In the draw panel, click the line button. It should be set by default. It is. For the first point, pick the center point of the radial wall. All right. So you can kind of fiddle around out here and try to get the center. It's going to be that circle right there. Or you can type SC, which is snap center, and then come up here to the arc. Either or. I'm going to recommend that you use SC to snap center and just limit your options. For the second point, pick a point horizontally to the right, outside the radial wall. Okay, we're going to come and just drag over here to the right. So our first reference plane is in place. Press escape twice, or click on modify to exit the command. To use the rotate command, follow these steps. Oh, sorry, I didn't zoom down far enough on my page here. Now that you've added the reference plane, you can rotate it into place. Select the reference plane you just drew. On the Modify panel, Reference Plane tab, click the Rotate button. So you see we have Modify Reference Planes. We're going to click Rotate. Icon looks like an arrow that's going in a circle. That's pretty self-explanatory. Or I could type in RO. Alright, but we're going to talk about this before we get too far along. You'll notice that where did it put the point of rotation? In the center of this reference plane, right? Oh. So if I click here and I rotate, I'm rotating around that center point. Not very helpful most of the time. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to grab rotate again. Item 3, after you start the rotate command, look back at the reference plane. Notice the blue dot is in the middle of your Revit. Revit always calculates the center of an object or groups of objects. So we're going to relocate the origin point for the rotation. We're going to do that by following item 4. On the options bar, click the place button and select the endpoint of the reference plane. So when you click place right here, essentially what you're telling is I want to place the center of rotation. So think of it as a string. You're placing the one end of the string that's going to stay in the same place. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to rotate around that point. We're going to hit place, and I'm going to come down here. And I want to go right at the end of that point. So I'm going to type SE for snap end. Make sure I'm right at the end of that point. Now you see how I'm rotating from that center? SE is snap endpoint.
Oh, I did SC and I went to endpoint.
Right. So that's going to be the center of my rotation, and I'm just going to click out here, and I'm going to drag up to 45 degrees. And now I have that reference plane at 45 degrees. Everybody good with that? All right. The next command that we're going to tackle is the array command. It's a little bit more advanced than the rotate command. But essentially, array allows you to copy a number of objects a certain distance from each other. This will make more sense when we go through the command. The array command. When you need to create multiple duplicates of an item or a grouping of items, the array command is the logical choice. The array command in the Revit functions in a fashion similar to the rotate command. Similarities of the array command also extend to the array command in AutoCAD. You have two basic choices, radial and linear. Let's look at how radial array works first. Radial array. A radial array is based on the radius, or on a radius rather. If you need items to be arrayed in a circular manner, the radial array is your best choice. Again, after you start the array command, don't ignore the options bar. It will guide you through most of the command. To start using a radial array, follow these steps. Select the 45-degree reference plane. On the Modify Reference Plane tab, click the Array button. And the Array button looks like these multiple squares. Or you can type AR. And as we roll over these tools, again, a little video will come up that will kind of show you how the tool works. So if you have questions, that's a helpful place to start. So we're going to click on Array. That's also shown in figure 4.1 to 4.11. With the array command active, some choices become available on the option bar as shown in figure 4.12. For this procedure, click radial. So you'll see right here that we have two icons. The first icon is linear array. We don't want to do a linear array here. We want to do a radial array. So we're going to click there. The next thing we want to do is select the Group and Associate checkbox. It is. That just means that it's going to keep this thing in a group after we array it. The next thing we want to do is move down the number to 4. Then we want to click on the Move to Last option. So this is, we're setting up everything beforehand. Does that make sense? So we have to actually think about what we want to accomplish before we do it with the array command. Next, we're going to place the center of rotation at the end of that line. And we're going to click out here at the end point, and we're going to move this to 90 degrees. And when we do that and click, what did Revit do for us?
Split it into 4.
Yeah, split it into 4 equal pieces. So when we selected last, what we were saying is we were going to define the start and the end of the array. We could have also said move to second and typed in 15 degrees, and it would have moved 15 degrees and then 30 degrees and then 45 degrees, etc. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is actually change the number of planes within the array. Now we're going to do that is we're going to click on here, and you're going to see this little number 4. If I click on number 4, I can type in 5, and it will add 5 reference planes. If I type 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it would recalculate automatically the array. Does that make sense? So a very useful tool, especially if you keep it grouped and associated. If you need to add something or take it away, for example, I go, oh no, I don't need 4 of these items. I really only need 4. It automatically recalculates it. So this really leverages the computer to do some work for you. Alright, so we're going to move on to linear array, which is slightly different than the radial array now that we have 5 reference planes here. Linear array. You may want to create an array along the line. And you can do this in Revit. When you create a linear array, you enjoy the same flexibility that you have with a radial array. The objective of this procedure is to create an array of windows along the north and south walls on the west side of the building's west wing. To do this, you'll first need to establish two strong reference planes. To learn how to use the linear array command, follow these steps. Item 1. Zoom in on the northwest section of the west wing as shown in figure 4.17. Alright, so that's right here. Item 2. Add two reference planes. You'll use these reference planes to establish the ends of your window array. Go to the reference plane command on the work plane panel of the architecture tab. That's right here. Item 3. On the draw panel, keep the line icon active and add an offset of 1 foot 6 inches. Okay. Pick the corner of the radial wall where it intersects the straight wall. Alright, that's going to be right here. And we'll notice that if I start drawing, what happens? My reference plane shows up 18 inches away from where I'm drawing. So we're just going to drag that out here a little bit. And that's our first reference plane. Item 5. Pick a second point similar to that shown in figure 7 or 4.17 to finish the reference plane. With the reference plane command still running, repeat the procedure for the top of the wall. Alright, is that where I want my reference plane to show up? No, if I simply hit the space bar, it will move it inside. And now I have two reference planes that will essentially define the beginning and end of this array. Now you need to add a window based on the bottom reference plane. This window will then be arrayed up to the wall to meet the northern reference plane. Here are the steps. On the Architecture tab, click the Window button. If we go to Architecture, we're basically going to click Window. And I'm going to drag the properties over here so you can see the Properties panel. Change the element type to fixed 24 inch by 72 inch. Right now we can see it's fixed 36 by 72. I'm going to come in here, click here, and change it to 24 by 72. Place the window approximately where it's shown in figure 4.19. You have to move the window in alignment with the reference plane. Okay. So we're going to come down here, and it says, hey, place it right about here. And my window's in the wrong orientation, right? You can see it's on the inside of the building. What should I do? Yeah, click these flippers and flip it on the outside. Maybe. You can't see the little flippers. There we go. There we go. You got to click on the window, highlight it. So highlight the window and you should get some flippers. Like a little graphical glitch there, it appears. Alright. Press the Escape key. Select the window. On the Modify Windows tab, click the Move button. So we want to grab this, and then we're going to click the Move button. And we're going to move this from here to the reference plane. That's one of several ways you could have done that. You could have aligned it, but we haven't talked about the Align command yet, so the book doesn't ask you to use it. Alright, so we're on item 8. Press Escape. Item 9. Zoom out until you can see the entire wall. Alright, now we have the entire wall to work with. And I'm going to move the Properties palette back out of the way just so I have some more screen real estate. Alright. Select the window you just inserted into the wall. Item 11. On the Modify Windows tab, click the Array button. Now this time, are we going to do a radial array? No, we want to do a linear array. So we're going to click this first icon, linear. Now we want to leave it grouped and associated. We want to select a number of 4. And we want to keep it moved to last. So now what we want to do is we want to move the endpoint of the window right here. I'm going to use this one right here. I'm going to drag it up, and I'm going to snap it basically to that reference plane. Now what happened? It drew me 4 windows, right? So it will array any element that you ask it to. And we screwed up. We don't have the right number, so we're going to click on one of these windows and tell it, I don't really want 4, I want 5 windows. It's going to automatically redraw them. And this will add in your elevation, it will add anywhere you want. So the array tool can be a very powerful drawing tool if you let it be. Okay, so at this point you've had an opportunity to kind of play around with the array command. Like I said, it is a very useful command, so take some time to understand it. We're going to move on to the mirror command, which you should be familiar with. We've used at least one version of the mirror command up to this point. The mirror command works exactly as expected. It makes a copy of an object or a group of objects in the opposite orientation of the first item. The crucial point to remember is that you'll need to specify a mirror plane. Although you simply couldn't avoid using this command in previous chapters, you need to address and explore the mirror command officially. The most useful aspect of the mirror command is that if reference planes already exist in the model, you can pick those planes to perform the mirror, as opposed to sketching a new plane around which to mirror. The objective of the following example is to mirror the windows to the south side of the west wall. Zoom in on the windows you arrayed in the previous exercise. Well, we're already there. Select the windows starting from the upper left corner to the lower right corner as shown in figure 4.24. Alright, make sure you got all of them selected. And make sure you're not selecting the wall also. So now we're going to come up here with those selected. I'm going to hit mirror. And you'll see there's 2 mirror tools. There's the mirror pick axis and the mirror draw axis. Since we already have a axis that we're going to mirror about, basically this reference point, we're going to pick axis. And then I'm simply going to pick on the axis. And what happened? So literally I've drawn 10 windows in the time it should take me to draw 2 windows, right? That's what these modified tools really do for you. They leverage the software quite a bit. You just kind of have to think ahead a little bit of, oh, how do I want to do this? And after a while, it will become second nature. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to draw the axis this time. So, actually, let me just draw something over here. I'm going to draw this wall. Not in your book, but I'm going to show you how to mirror this by drawing an axis. So we would select the object, we would go up to mirror draw axis, and then we basically are just going to draw a line. If I click here and I drag straight over, that will be the mirror plane. Think of it like folding a piece of paper. You all made snowflakes when you were children? It's like that crease in the paper is your mirror plane. So when you don't have something to mirror from, you can easily draw an axis. All right, I'm going to click both of those and erase them. Just by hitting the delete key. And we're going to move on to what I consider to be one of the most useful tools in Revit, the align command. Once you really master this tool, it will help you be very, very precise with the program, and it's not hard to use. Alright, the align tool. You'll find yourself in situations where 2 items need to be aligned with each other. The align command is a great tool for accomplishing this task. It's one of the most useful tools in Revit, and you'll use it extensively. Overuse of this command isn't possible because align is a tool that you don't have to select an item first for the function to become available. You can select a line at any time. To practice using the align tool, follow these steps. Zoom in on the radial portion of the west wall as shown in figure 4.28. What we're going to do is we're going to put some windows in here. On the Architecture tab, click the Window button. Window. We'll pull this Properties menu over. In the Type selector, choose Fixed 16 by 72. I'm going to move this back out of the way. Item 4. Place the window in the radial wall location similar to that shown in figure 4.28. Don't attempt to eyeball the center of the window with the reference plane. As a matter of fact, purposely misalign the window. We're going to show you how to put it in there. So don't spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out, oh, is this in the right place? I'm going to align it over here. Obviously not centered on the window or centered on the reference plane. Do we agree? Yeah, we're going to use the align command to fix that. On the Modify tab, click the Align button. I'm going to exit out of this. Modify tab, Align button. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the center line of that window. Actually, what I'm going to do is select the reference plane, and then I'll select the center line of the window. Very important to remember, whatever you select first with the Align command stays where it's at. So you're selecting what you want to align to, and then you will select the thing that you want to move. Very, very useful command. Probably the most used command for me after wall. Well, even more than wall, because you're going to modify windows and doors and all sorts of other things where you need the align command. Makes it very precise. You know right now that the two of those things are on top of each other. I almost never use the move command because I'm using the align command most of the time. And you will want to know the shortcut AL. The other thing you'll want to notice is look at the mouse right now, and adjacent to it you see this little kind of bar graph looking thing. That's the icon that indicates that you have the align tool active.
Something popping out
The
by
lock?
the window.
The lock?
Yeah, that's a lock. Yeah.
This?
Yeah, I don't have that.
Mine is coming from the reference plane.
Yeah, it just says you want to lock that to the reference plane.
Oh.
I wouldn't be concerned about that. Alright, so that should take us through figure 4.31. Item 8, press escape. And now we're going to select that window, item 9, and we're going to do a radial array. That makes sense, right? We probably want a window at each one of those reference planes. So I'm not going to use the book to do that. How would I go about doing this? What's the first step?
Select the window.
Well, we've selected the window. What's the next step?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's select the array command. Then we're going to look at the options bar, and we're going to select radial. We're going to group and associate that. We're going to put the number 5 in. Move to last. We're going to place the center of rotation. Actually, I'm going to move to second. Show you how it works. And then I'm going to go place center of rotation right here at this end point. I'm going to go from this end point to this end point. And what I've done is define the space between them. So you'll see that it rotated all 5. So let's take a quick pause, and I want you to walk through doing that until you're comfortable doing it. All right, so moving forward, we're going to work with the Align tool. And I'm at figure 4.32. So item 1, zoom into the end of the corridor in the east wing of the building as shown. And there's supposed to be a door there that I don't have, but that's okay. Oh, we're going to add the door. On the architecture tab, click the door button. Architecture tab, door, or I can type DR. Place a double flush 72 by 84 door in the radial corridor wall. That already happens to be selected. So I'm going to place that. Double flush, good. Alright. And is it right where it needs to be? Yeah, it's not right where it really needs to be. Renumber the door 100A. Alright, so that's if your door came in with a door tag. If your door didn't come in with the door tag, what do? This is where you freak out and send me an email. But you don't need to.
Don't you just click?
Simply go to annotate, tag by category, and you can tag the door. And what I'm going to tell you is click on that tag.
Just tag right here. There we go.
Tag by category. It's giving me a little heartache. Alright. Click on that door and get rid of this little leader line. That's just that line between the tag. And to rename this, it's like I rename anything else. I just double click on it and I can rename this 100A. There we go. On the Modify panel, click the Align button. Modify, Align. Again, the thing you click on first does not move. So we want to click on the reference plane, right? So we want to move the door to the reference plane. So we'll click there. We'll click on the door reference plane. Now that's precisely aligned. Very, very useful when you're trying, because close is not close enough. If you get close and you continue to work on your model, then everything is off just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And the further you go along, the more stuff becomes off. Then it becomes very frustrating when nothing in your model lines up and you're trying to fix it. So I'm going to encourage you, from the beginning, be precise about how you put your model together. It will make your life easier in the long run.
So are you first clicking on the door and
Not
then?
first the reference.
No, the thing that you click on first does not move. So if you do not want the reference plane to move, click on it first.
First, okay.
Otherwise, your reference plane will move to your door, which is not correct.
And then align. Then align.
No, you have to invoke the align command before you start.
How'd you delete the leader line?
By using the modify, I selected the tag. And there's just a checkbox here in the properties for leader line. So if I click this on, it'll create a leader line. If I click it off, it'll take the leader line away.
Okay, so
And that's goes for most tags. Most tags have a leader line option.
okay, so can you click on the
So next we're going to talk about how you lock an alignment. Locking an alignment. After you align the items, you'll notice that the small blue padlock icon I just mentioned in Revit, you can lock items together using the Align tool. When you align an item and it's locked, oh, well that's bad. My book turned off. Alright, so right after you align something, you see this little blue padlock? If I want to lock that alignment, meaning that door will always be locked to the reference plane, I simply just want to click it. And that basically puts an alignment constraint. The padlock closes. So, if I grab this reference plane and I move the reference plane, what do we expect should happen?
Door should move.
Yeah. Now, I might get an error that says, hey, the constraints are no longer satisfied. That's fine. That just means I can't move it. I don't really want to move it anyway. I'm just showing you that if I lock something to a reference plane, it's going to move with it. This becomes very important when you start building your own families and you put in dynamic parameters. You start locking a lot of things to reference planes, and then you use dynamic parameters to move the reference planes. So we're going to hit cancel here. And move on to figure 4.33. The door is now aligned and locked. There will also be times when two items are already aligned and you just want to lock the items together. To do this, you must still use the align command to access the lock option. Zoom in the west side of the east wing at the corridor intersection. West side of the east wing. That's this over here, right? Start the align command. I'm going to do that by typing AL. You'll notice the icon next to my mouse button changed. Pick the center line of the door at the end of the corridor. All right. Pick the center of the reference plane. Now I didn't move anything, right? They were already aligned to each other, but it allowed me to access this blue padlock. And now I can click that and lock it together, and that reference plane and those two doors will always stay aligned. This could be important if something in your building needs to be aligned with something else. So you kind of can start to set up some of those design constraints to let Revit work for you. For example, if I have a piece of casework and the sink should always be in the same place, maybe I lock that sink into place. So if I move the piece of casework, what happens with the sink? It moves as well.
It's almost like a block.
It's like a, yeah, I guess you could relate it to an AutoCAD block. All right, the next thing we're going to explore is the split element command, which again is something we've used before, so you should be somewhat familiar with it. The split element command. The split element command is the equivalent of the break command in AutoCAD. You can use the split element command on walls and when you edit elements in sketch mode. The objective of this procedure is to cut a notch out of the wall by using the edit profile function. In the project browser, open the sections, building sections called West Wing South Wall section. Okay, let's go find that. And I'm gonna go down to sections, and we're looking for the West Wing. Oh, I've lost it in the book. West Wing South Wall section. So West Wing South Wall section. Double click on that, and that will bring up this view. On the Modify Walls tab, click the Edit Profile button after we've selected the wall beyond. So first thing, we're going to select this wall, and then we're going to select Edit Profile, and this is going to dump us into sketch mode. How do we know we're in sketch mode? Yeah, there's a magenta line and everything else gets grayed out. Let me remember to record here. Alright, so we've selected the wall beyond, we've entered sketch mode. On the Modify Wall Edit Profile tab, click the Split Element button. So if we go up here, we have the Modify Walls Edit Profile, and we have the Split Element. I'm going to hover over that so that it, well, I thought the little pop-up window would come up, but it has not. So we'll click on that, and essentially we want to cut this bottom line, or split it, in two places. Here and there. Now that makes that bottom line 3 separate lines, which gives us the ability to start to take sections of it out. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Now what do we know about sketch mode? If I try to finish this right now, what's going to happen? Yeah, in fact, I'll do that just to show you what is going to happen. Because I'm going to get an error. It's going to highlight the error in orange. It's going to tell us lines must be in closed loops. So we're not going to quit sketching, are we? Because we will lose our work if we do that. So we're going to hit continue. We're going to go in and we're going to use these tools to make a closed loop. Now if I hit finish sketch, what should happen?
Should complete the wall.
Except I need to offset this down 1 foot per the instructions in the book. So I'll take this offset down 1 foot. I'm going to use trim to corner, or TR, to clean up these corners. And I'm going to get rid of this line. I'm going to hit finish it mode. And what have I essentially done? I've created an opening in the wall. There's a number of different ways to create openings. That just happens to be one of them. We'll explore others as we go through the book. All right, so we're going to press through the rest of chapter 4 here, which will allow us to start chapter 5 on Thursday. I'm going to quickly go into 3D mode, and I have an opening there. Great. So let's move on to the next item. The trim command. You have used the trim command extensively at this point. How do we access the trim command with the shortcut key? TR. Just align is AL, trim is TR, WD is window, DR is door, and WA is wall. If you remember those 5 shortcut commands, you will be much faster at Revit. The trim command. Anytime you need to cut or extend an item, you'll use the trim command. In any design-based application, you won't get very far without the command. You can use the trim command on walls and in sketch mode, similar to how you would use the split element command. As mentioned earlier, however, you need to understand specific procedures to be comfortable using the command. To use the trim command, follow these steps. Item 1, go to level 1. Item 2, zoom in on the east wing. 2 walls extend beyond their destination. All right. So we have these walls that we made earlier. Item 3, on the Modify tab, click the Trim Extend Single Element button. So there's 3 flavors of trim. There's trim to corner, there's trim extend single element, and there's trim extend multiple elements. You're going to use trim to corner most often, but these are useful to know as well. To trim the vertical wall back to the horizontal, you must first pick the wall you want to trim. In this case, select the south face of the horizontal wall. Now you must pick a point along the vertical wall. The trick here is that you must pick a point on the side of the wall that you want to keep. So you're first selecting your cutting plane, essentially, and then you're selecting the part of the wall you want to keep. So we're going to select the Trim Extend Single Element. This wall will be our cutting plane. And we want to select the part of the wall we want to keep. That makes sense? It's a little bit different than AutoCAD, because in AutoCAD you select the part of the line or element you don't want to keep. So if you're an AutoCAD user, it'll take a little bit of getting used to. All right. On this side, I'm going to show you how to extend. Same command. I'm going to select the plane I want to extend to. I'm going to select the element I want to extend, and that's it. Same command. I didn't even exit the command, did I? A little bit different than AutoCAD, where trim and extend are actually 2 separate commands. You'll get more use with trim and extend, but that, in a nutshell, is the trim and extend commands. The multiple one is just going to allow you to do multiple walls at once. So I'll show you that. Trim extend multiple. I'll select the plane I want to extend to, and then I can just start clicking multiple walls that I want to extend to it. I'm going to undo that because that isn't in the book. Alright, the next command, the offset command. Also a very useful tool. The offset command enables you to create a copy of a linear item at a specific distance. As mentioned earlier, the need to offset an item crops up so much less often in Revit architecture than in conventional drafting applications. This is because in Revit, most commands provide offset functionality as an option. Sometimes, however, you need the good old offset command. To get used to using the offset command, follow these steps. Item 1, zoom in on the west part of the east wing. This is the area where the restrooms are located. The objective is to offset the vertical wall that is to the right of the restrooms to the middle of the open space. Item 2, on the Modify panel, of the Modify tab, click the Offset button. It's this weird looking elbow icon. So now I have the Offset command active. I'm going to use this dialog box right here to type in my distance. And according to the book, I want that distance to be 16 feet 2 inches. All right. And then this option here either says I want it copied or I want it not to copy. If you're not copying it, it works very much like the move tool. But typically when you're offsetting, you want to copy it. So I'm going to hover over this, and what do you notice to the right of my wall?
Blue dotted line.
I get a blue dotted line. What does that indicate?
That's where it's gonna land.
That's where the wall is going to land. That looks approximately right. I'm going to click on that. I've created the next wall. Very straightforward, very simple. I'm going to do the same thing on this wall. Not exiting the command, and there I go. I have my walls. All right, copy paste. So there is a Control V, Control P, or Control C, Control V type function, Windows cut and paste function. So we're going to zoom in on the east wing. We're going to select the walls, doors, windows that define the bathrooms and the corridors. So come in here and just start selecting these. You can hold Control to add to your selection. I know I want all of that stuff. I want this stuff. I want this. Major corridor walls. Okay, I believe I have everything selected that I want to select. Choose Copy to Clipboard from the Clipboard panel. So here's the Clipboard panel. And we want to basically copy to clipboard. You can also hit Control C. We're going to hit Copy to Clipboard. And what you'll notice is the paste icon became active because now the clipboard has been loaded. What we want to do is we're going to go to a 3D view so you can see this easier. Obviously, I only have walls in the first floor plan. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to say align to. Oh, I want to align to selected levels, but it's not going to let me. That's not very nice of it. Huh. Well, that's not very nice of it at all. Alright, so I had something selected, probably a door tag or a view or something that it wouldn't let me paste to multiple levels. So if you go to this paste and expand it, and align to selected levels isn't an available option, it probably means that you've selected something that Revit can't copy from level to level. So I'm going to select Align to Selected Levels, and I'm just going to select 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to hit OK. And what Revit's going to do is populate each one of those levels with the walls I just selected. So in a building where floor plan to floor plan it's the same, it's very easy to move from level to level. So when we talked about levels a couple chapters ago, we talked about levels being a tool to organize our model. Here's another example of how we're using levels to organize that model. Alright, the last item in Chapter 4, creating the plans. Now you've added walls and doors and windows, you can begin to combine this experience with your knowledge of the basic Revit editing commands in the previous sections. You started to lay out your floor plans. You can follow along with the book's examples up to floor 3. You can then create your own plans for floors 4 and 5. To start building a floor plan to be copied to other levels, follow these steps. In the project browser, go to level 1 under floor plans. 2. Add walls, doors, openings, and windows to resemble figure 4.53. These doors, windows can be any type you like. If your model varies slightly from the example in the book, don't be concerned. All right, so the book has asked you to draw a bunch of stuff in, right? And you're going to do that with the wall tool up here, the door tool, the window tool. You're just adding, this is repetition at this point. So grab the door tool and make sure you have a single flush door selected. Maybe a 36-inch door by 84. Then you can start dropping those doors in that you see here in the plan. There appears to be one there. And you can modify those doors to make sure that they're in the right orientation. And you can do that over and over and over again, right? I'm not going to walk you through each step of that. This is your opportunity to start using the tools multiple times. So once you have all of that laid out, it's asking you to go to floor plan level 2. Press escape to clear any selections. In the properties dialog box, set underlay to none. Okay, so you can think of underlays like you can think of underlays kind of like trace paper. So right now, if I look at this underlay, I'm looking from level 1 to 2, and I'm looking down. And that's this wall here. See how I can't select that wall? Because it's actually on level 1. I can select that wall because it's on level 2. If I tell it, hey, give me no underlay, what happened? Takes away the silhouette or takes away the shaded out portion. So again, we're thinking about this like trace paper. If I set this to level 1, those lines come back, and now I can use those lines to trace on top of them. Does that make sense? So I can come in here and say, hey, I want a wall, and it'll let me snap to the underlay layer. And obviously that's not the right type of wall. So I could either hit MA for match attributes. Now it's not in the right place, so I could type AL for a line. And I could move that wall over. So it's useful to be able to have the option to look at stuff below or above by using the underlays. So basically at this point you want to continue to work on those plans until they're fully flushed out. You've copied them from floors 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. You've drawn the additional information in that you need. That concludes chapter 4. On Thursday we'll start going over chapter 5. But now you should be familiar with the tools. And chapter 5 is going to essentially introduce dimensioning and annotation to us. So text and things that we put on the drawings to expand on the information that the geometry has.